Okay, so real quick, explain how during this whole creation spur, how other beings essentially came into creation. It's not meant to be racist or anything like that, or towards, white people. But if they want to know their origin, then this is it. I'll explain it. So, uh, you have to go back and watch my first two videos to understand completely. So, in the initial spur of the creation of this reality that we're currently in, occupying, being on Earth, the creator of this reality set this reality over top of another reality that was already there. And spirits that he either came here or entrapped here, which is us. We came here. We're not from this area. We came here. We migrated here as black people, or whatever, so-called black people. We came here. We're not from here. We were seated in the beginning of the universe. Okay, the other people, which would be white people, is what I'm talking about. They were seated in this reality. This is why they can only peer back so far. There are limitations to where they can't really break outside of this reality. That also goes into what we've been doing here the whole time, but that's a different story. So when the reality was seated, because the creator of it, which is Yaldabaoth or Yahweh, and which if you worship that's what you're going to. Which was Yahweh, which was the creator of this reality. When he seated this, and it is a male deity, it would be considered as a male, or correctly would be considered as an Eb. So when he seated this reality, he took on the role of ebb and flow. And this is why when the reality came down, it came down with imperfections. It was like offshoots of chaos that was left. You know how if you go buy a bed from the store and you come back, or entertainment center from the store, you don't really know what the hell you're doing, and you put the bed together or the entertainment unit, and you got all these screws and shit left, and a master builder comes in and say, hey, you did that wrong. But these screws that are left were seeded from which the pieces of the original energy that you took. Okay? So it was the same thing. When the chaos or the imperfections from this universe was seeded, those imperfections said, well, at first we're gonna be destroyed or discarded like the screws. But they said, hey, we got rights too. You can't just disregard us because this creator, this Adalabroth, caused us to be. But we still got rights because we didn't do this. So they were, in order to get a certain amount of divinity so they could be universal, because to be trapped here was to be created here, because you were seated here. You can't plane out with the rest of existence. The spirit cannot take the density of the waters, of the chaotic waters of space. You cannot. Your spirit, just like certain lights don't shine through space when they're in space, the same thing. You go out there, you will cease to exist because you don't have what it takes, essentially, to shine like a light or like the stars do, shining back through space. Because you are not seated out there. You have none of that compound in your in your creation sphere. Okay, so this is where black people come in. So since the woman was here in the beginning, this planet, then we were somewhat, now, we were not involved in the creation of this first imperfection. But what we were involved in was pulling the imperfection, the chaotic energy, and that's why they're mostly anti-life. They kill everything and go around. Some of them, not all white people, of course. But this is why, because it was a chaotic energy that was created, but it was an offshoot of a miscreation. So therefore, the nature of the thing was twisted because of the shortcomings of its creator, because he is an ebb, and when the first flow, which you would be called the Great Mother, and this is where the story comes in, the myth comes in, the mythos about the Great Mother and, Marduk, and how she put light in those things that which he created. Basically, she came to him and was like, well, what the fuck? What are you doing? You are not a flow. You cannot correctly flow into existence. Although you are a deity, you have divinity, your purpose is an ebb to spark creation, not to create. And she looked down at it, and that's why you got all this little stuff here, all this little chaotic spears that you've misappropriated. This is not done correctly. Like when you try to cook for the first time in your mama's kitchen and you tell you got stuff left over, she'd be like, yeah, this was supposed to go in here. What's all this stuff, this extra stuff? You're supposed to have no more ingredients left. You got extra ingredients sitting here. This was supposed to be in this, so I can throw this out. But no, the extra ingredients say, no, I got rights too. I wanted to live. Not my fault. He fucked up. So, that's how it became to be. So, this miscreation had to combine with the original creation in order to be given divinity, or as what you would call fragments of light and able to exist outside of this reality without being so-called burned up or destroyed by the etheric volumes of space that exist outside of this space. I'm just trying to break it down to where you can understand it, which everything you break down, if you break down something, you have to take away from it. Just like if you break down a car to where you take everything off of it and you got the engine sitting there. Yeah, it's an engine to a car. You can't necessarily drive that engine up the street. If you break it down further from the engine to an alternator, that alternator is not going to run the car by itself. So the further you break things down, the more you have to take away from it. So what you do is you don't fight the information. You got to let your mind and your subconscious make sense of it. As you vibrate higher, the pieces will start to come back together from the breakdown. You will see, oh yeah, this is an alternator. Okay, yeah, this goes into an engine. Okay, the engine goes into a car. Okay, now the car, it got an alternator, engine, battery, I put it all back together. Now I can drive up the street with it. Okay? Most of you are trying to drive up the street with just the alternator. You got one small piece and you driving up the street. You out here trying to teach shit and you don't really understand it because you don't have a basis. You just got an alternator and you trying to drive up the street with it. Just like somebody, all these dudes making these videos on how coffee is bad. Coffee is bad. Okay, what? It depends. Coffee is not bad. It can be bad to you because depending on what you put in it. Coffee makes you use the bathroom. So you got to get rid of the waste in your body. If you one of them people like Charleston White was saying, shit every 3 days, which is not healthy at all. I used to do that too. Before I started drinking the coffee, then you start going every day, 2-3 times a day. But they say the coffee is bad. Yeah, it could be bad based on what you're putting in it. You know, if you putting milk and cream in it, you can't drink it black. You putting milk and cream in it, yeah, that could be bad because you could be allergic to milk and cream, which most black people are allergic to milk and cream. For one, it's cow. You're not meant to drink necessarily a cow's milk. The structure of it is all off. So when the vibrational structure of that hits your body, it interferes with the vibrational structure of your body. And that's what cells do. They vibrate. You're not drinking because you crap out everything you take in. If you ever had children, you can look at the children when they poop. If you give them spaghetti, all of it's going to be red and shit when it comes out. It's going to all come out. You shit out everything you eat. So what you're doing is you're taking on the energy and basically taking on the spin of the cells of the energy of the food that you're eating. So coffee has a certain spin. It helps you extract waste from the body. When you put cream in it, you interrupt the spin that it has, so it creates another spin. It's just like the alchemist. The untrained alchemist, okay, make concoctions that interrupt themselves. When you give it to somebody, they get gas, all this other stuff happens, as opposed to a more pure creation. Which, I mean, even, and then if you get into the quality of the coffees, dark roast is basically burnt coffee. At that point, dark, medium, you're basically burning the seed. If you eat something that's burnt and you taste the ash and drink black, dark roast coffee, you can literally taste where it's burnt. It's been burnt. It's been overcooked. The seed has been cooked for too long. The alchemical process is off. You drink light roast, it's smooth, or blonde roast, the coffee is smooth. It's been cooked at just about the right temperature for you to absorb and go into and drink. Anything past that, and you're getting into where it's burnt. And you're probably not supposed to be drinking. But just like I said, it all depends on the alchemical process. But it's not bad per se. It just depends on the alchemist that's making it. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of you don't have foundations, and you're coming out spewing garbage that coffee is bad, and you don't have enough sense to explain that, you know, this is why it could be or it could be not. But just in itself, no. So, but that's just an example of, you know, how a foundation could leave you lax for it. But you always have to go back to the foundation to understand anything you're looking at. That way you'll be able to decipher it for yourself and remember or determine whether good or bad. Thanks. Have a good day.